Welcome to the Catalyst Life Coaching Podcast with John Kim and Noelle Cordeaux. If you're inspired to begin your own life coaching practice or just want to learn a little bit more about what it's all about, visit JRNI.co. That's JRNI.co for more information. Your adventure awaits. John and Noelle would like to invite you to a live training and Q&A session happening on September 24th, 2019. They'll be discussing career change, the many, many different ways that you can become a coach or use coach training in your current career, and answering your questions about the $4.2 trillion wellness global economy. That's right, $1 trillion. So head over to JRNI.co/career to sign up. That's JRNI.co/career. It's time to get the skills and training you need to make a bigger impact in the world around you. And we'll see you on September 24th.
Hey guys, on today's episode, we're going to talk about how your empathy is your superpower as a life coach.
Yes. Let's start with the definition of empathy.
Yeah, I was going to say that. What exactly does empathy mean? And I know it's a big word, and it's become a big wellness buzzword, and empathy is something that we should all practice. But what exactly is it?
I was surprised by the definition when I looked it up. I thought that empathy was really based on your ability to feel things, which it is. But the actual definition is the ability to understand and then share the feelings of another.
Wait, let me think about this. To understand and then share. So what do you mean by share the feelings of another? To actually say it back to them?
Yeah, I think to get in there and have the conversation and be like, wow, I can really understand how you, John, are thinking and feeling about a given situation. Right. And I'm not just going to discount your feelings, and I'm going to let you have your feelings and partner with you to maybe figure it out.
Yeah. And, there's something amazing about this subtle difference between, I shouldn't say amazing, I should say powerful. I know for me, whether it's friends or partner, family, whoever, if they just hear me from a very logical place, and then of course they'll have suggestions and advice, that's one thing. But if they truly express that they understand what I'm going through, and then I even see kind of in their eyes, their understanding, that's a whole that the love that I feel there is on a different level.
A totally different level. And I think, this goes back to the concept of we humans have gotten very used to being separate from each other in life and in society. And to sit down with another person through the chapters and seasons of life and really be there is a lost art.
Well, because we're just trying to fix everyone.
And I think it's societal, and I think it's generational. I remember growing up, my mom would have friends over for tea. And that was kind of like, the problem spot. When somebody was going through something, they came over, they sat at the kitchen table, and they had tea. And, now as an adult looking back, I'm like, oh, that person was going through a divorce at that time. Or, that person's child was really sick. And as a kid, it didn't make sense to me what was going on. But as an adult now, what do you see as far as, I know you have a great group of friends that you work really hard to build that relationship with. Do you guys get together for tea?
Not tea. I have a couple of different tribes, but we get together for workouts and motorcycle rides and stuff like that. But during the activity, we do have moments of very heartfelt, serious conversations. So just, and that's what I get out of it the most is that connection. And of course, to do that, you have to be empathetic,
You have to be empathetic. Last night, one of my friends was going through a breakup, and I canceled my plans for the evening, and I made pasta, and my partner went out and got a bottle of wine, and we prepared for breakup central, right? And
that's amazing.
she sat at our dining room table and cried into her pasta, and we held space because both of us know what it's like, back to that definition, to understand and share the feelings of another. And I said to her at some point during the evening, I think relationships like this, where you agree to travel through life with each other, are a lost art.
Yeah. And I got to say, and I'm not just saying this because we're on a podcast, I think empathy for you, especially you, is one of your superpowers. Since I've known you, you usually feel something before the to-do kicks in. So it doesn't matter if it's someone going through something, or if someone wants to tell you something personal, or maybe it's like animal related, or whatever, something's happening in the world. I noticed that you feel it because I see it in your face, and I experience your emotion. And then after that, so after practicing the empathy, then you go into, okay, now what do we do about it, or what are you not going to do about it? And I've never seen that on that kind of level with anyone else, I think, but you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's kind of a blessing and a curse to feel so deeply.
Yes, because I also know that when you feel deeply, it could also knock you out.
It can really knock me out. And so, as we're kind of circling this, background to coaching, you and I share a very high level of empathy. It is filtered throughout our organization. So, I think that's one of the things that we provide for every single coach who comes into our network, is a community and a space for individuals who may not have families or friends or partners who are capable of that level of empathy. And we kind of throw the doors open and say, come on in. We have 500 empathetic motherfuckers around here. Grab a seat, share your story, take what you need, and, rest up so that you can keep going on the path of life. And I think it's beautiful to model that for our people, and to provide that space for our people, and then to be deploying coaches out into the world who can do this for others.
Yeah, and I gotta say, if you're interested in being a life coach, we as humans all have the ability to be empathetic. So you already have that. I think a lot of people think life coaching is only about accomplishing goals and tools and different ways in and techniques. And I think that's all, of course, a part of it. But if you are naturally empathetic, and that is one of your superpowers, then you're already set up to be a very powerful coach.
It's so true. It's so true. And coach training is valuable and important because it takes that very natural skill set and then gives you a system and structures to kind of package it up and turn it into a very valuable professional skill. I was poking around and I found a really nice framework for how coaches can do this. And it comes from the world of nonviolent communication, or NVC. And that is Marshall Rosenberg, who sadly passed in 2003. But this man is my hero. If you guys have a chance to Google him, he does the most amazing videos with puppets talking about feelings.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. And the goal of nonviolent communication is to establish a relationship with others that's based on honesty and empathy. So it's an actual linguistic training program that helps you communicate using empathy, essentially.
That alone can change so many relationships.
So many relationships, so many. So I'll break it down for you. So the goal is to communicate what you observe without giving your 2 cents about it. So you're just stating facts, what you see, what you hear, what you remember, what you imagine, and it's free from evaluations. And it's free for evaluations that do not contribute to your well-being, I think, is the really important part. So the sentence is when I see or hear, and a correct example is when I hear you raising your voice, or you spent over 60 hours at the office this week, or, maybe a coach to a ball player, you have not scored a goal in 20 games. So those are all ways of thinking where you're observing, you're stating the facts. So an incorrect example of this would be when you become aggressive, or you work too much, or you're a shitty soccer player. So looking at the difference between, let's just take the example of when I hear you raising your voice versus when you become aggressive. How do you think that lands for the listener?
What do you mean? How does that land for the listener?
So if I said to you, John, when I hear you raising your voice, it really has an impact on the room, versus when you become aggressive, it's terrible.
Right. So when you say when you become aggressive, the first thing I feel is attacked, or I feel you're calling me a name, or you're saying I'm a monster, or you're saying that I'm doing something wrong or bad. When the first one, when you say this is what I hear you doing or see you doing, then that one's much softer, because what I sense is you noticing something. There's more empathy in the first one.
It's a much softer delivery. It's a much softer delivery, and you're absolutely right. You're not putting somebody immediately on the defensive. Yeah. And so then the next step is to communicate about how you personally feel. So it's when I see you, or whatever other observation you have, I feel, and your feelings. It's so important to keep in mind that your feelings are separate from what other people say and do. And so when you're like, a correct example of your feelings is, I feel exhausted. I feel frustrated. When you don't greet me at the door, I feel lonely, is something I might say to George, my dog. An incorrect example is, you're wearing me out. You should have known better.
Right. Yeah, all that is loaded.
Yeah, totally loaded. And it puts responsibility on the other person for not only their behavior, but also for your existence.
The difference between we need to have more sex and I would like to be more intimate with you. It's like day and night.
Yeah, so that's a great example. That's a great example. So let's take this and frame it from an empathetic perspective. So let's start with the observation. The observation in this scenario would be what?
And this is so I mentioned this because this is so common with my male clients, wanting more sex.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So what's the observation? The observation is,
we're not having enough, or I would like more.
So if we're taking it down without a judgment, so not having enough is a judgment. So we are having we're having less intimacy than we did when the relationship started.
Sure.
So that could be an accurate observation. And then how do your male clients typically feel about that fact?
Oh, undesired, which they usually don't say because of their definitions of masculinity, and that means they have to be vulnerable. So undesired, hurt, rejected.
Okay, so undesired, hurt, rejected. So those are still putting the onus, those words are still putting the onus on the listener. So I'm wondering how we could kind of spin that around. So if we're feeling hurt, rejected, undesired, I feel would lonely be a good descriptor. When I feel undesired, I feel not at my best.
Yeah. Can it be something also like, I feel like I want to be closer to you? You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's drift and I want to be more intimate with you. So like more is instead of what's lacking, what you want, what you want to do that's gonna equal something positive.
Yes, and now we have to really follow it through, but with understanding how the other person might be experiencing this drift. So, I'm observing that we're having less intimacy than we did when the relationship first started. When we don't have intimacy in our relationship, I sometimes start to feel not at my best and a little bit lonely. I also have this feeling of wanting to be closer to you. And if I am feeling so impacted in these ways, I imagine that there must be something going on for you as well. And I want to hear about that and explore it together.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking about this, the difference is it's like the Grand Canyon. I mean, it's so and I'm also guilty of this being in relationships where I'm like, we're not having enough sex and all that. And so when you approach someone with that, they're of course they're going to hold up a shield because you're basically indirectly saying something's wrong with you or you're not doing enough, or they may take it as you're not good enough. But when you say I would like, or I feel lonely, I feel like I want to be closer to you, stuff like that, then it's gonna draw them towards you, and of course the result of that can be a sexual experience or any kind of intimate experience.
And don't forget that the follow through calls on joining. That if I'm feeling this, there must be something going on for you too. And I care about your inner life partner. So let me understand what's going on for you.
Yeah, the joining part is huge because you ask, what do you think about this, or how do you feel? Giving your partner the opportunity to express him or herself.
Yes, and and accepting it without judgment and not giving. So the key with nonviolent communication and this empathy work is to do not issue any statements that could jeopardize another person's well-being. So when we're thinking of our words as those daggers, and oh, by the way, this little vignette that we're running you guys through, this is how you practice as a coach in session. It's deeply listening to someone, hearing their words, understanding their basic or psychic needs. So I could take this whole vignette and flip it around to a coaching conversation where, it was so interesting. Yesterday I had a call with my coach and she asked me how I was doing. And I said, not great. And she said, I can really hear it in your voice.
Mm. It validated you.
Yeah, I was listened to. And so, if a client pops in and they say, I feel like shit, I'm not having enough sex, it's like, wow, I can really hear your frustration. I can really hear your frustration. Tell me what's going on for you.
So most of the world skips that piece. So, when you say I'm not doing well, the next one is we skip your validating you, and then we go to solutions, or what's wrong with you, or what's going on, or how can we fix this very fast.
Yes. And bringing it right back home to the definition of empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So going there is the superpower.
Wow. What a powerful episode, and such a great conversation, especially in the world today with the landscape of everything that's going on.
Oh, goodness. People are so upset.
People are upset. People are scared. So Noelle and I have this kind of running joke where she'll always say something random, and I always think, oh, that would make a great T-shirt. And so today, maybe nonviolent communication would be a powerful T-shirt. Now, we never make them, but we always joke about them.
We would have the best fashion line if we ever got our act together.
Yeah, we have thousands of sayings from Noelle that could easily be T-shirts.
One day.
Anyway, guys, practice empathy. And be well.
Take care.
John and Noelle would like to invite you to a live training and Q&A session happening on September 24th, 2019. They'll be discussing career change, the many, many different ways that you can become a coach or use coach training in your current career, and answering your questions about the $4.2 trillion wellness global economy. That's right, $1 trillion. So head over to journey.co/career to sign up. That's jrni.co/career. It's time to get the skills and training you need to make a bigger impact in the world around you. And we'll see you on September 24th.